Hello everyone, and welcome to Unit8 Talks, our webinar series on business and technology. Today we'll discuss optimizing resource consumption and reducing the cost of cloud data platform with Tomek Chudzik, Director and Lead Cloud Architect at Unit8. My name is Billy Yen. I will be your host today. For those of you who are new to the series, we are Unit8, a Swiss data analytics and AI company driving the adoption of data science in the industry and committing to share our best practices. The session is for you, so please ask your question in the comment section of the platform you're using, LinkedIn, YouTube, or Twitter. Our guest is Tomek. Maybe Tomek, you can start with introducing yourself and present the agenda. Welcome, Tomek.
Welcome everyone. Thanks, Billy. My name is Tomek. I'm a cloud architect and area director here at Unit8. I'm actually very excited to be talking about this topic today, which is optimizing resource consumption and reduction of the cost of cloud data platforms. So we're going to go through a couple of topics here. I'm also going to show you a case study and hopefully share all along the way a couple of tips and experiences of a number of projects that we've been doing in this area in Unit8.
Sounds exciting. Ready? Let's start.
Okay, great. I guess I'm live. So once again, the topic of this discussion is optimizing resource consumption and reducing the cost of cloud data platforms. And before I start, maybe I'll just share a bit of interesting news with you. I guess a lot of you have heard and read about Chat GTP, latest AI from OpenAI, which is really remarkable and amazing tool. I highly recommend playing with it. And I actually asked the tool today about the agenda that I should propose for a webinar like that. I don't have a slide for it, but I have to say I was really amazed. The agenda made a lot of sense and kind of matches a lot of the things I'm going to talk about. So do check this tool out. It's really cool and it's really amazing to see how AI has advanced over the past years. But to the topic. Let's start with some high-level statements and an overall introduction of the subject we're going to talk about. So it's obvious that cloud adoption is increasing and growing. There has been some latest study by Gartner showing that the cloud spend around the world has increased by over 20% and is in the areas of 600 billion in 2022. And this number is likely going to go up. When it comes to data platforms, there are some estimates that say that the 2-year total cost of running data platforms in medium enterprises ranges between 6 and 15 million. For larger enterprises, it's anything between 17 to 42 or even more millions of dollars. So really big amounts of money and something hard to forget about. At the same time, different reports say that cloud waste is growing, and various reports estimate that something around 32% of the resources and money that's going into cloud is actually wasted, and it's an increase compared to last year. And the estimates are that those numbers actually are much higher, and this number is only going to go up as our tooling advances and we're able to actually measure our waste even better. So cloud spend growing, waste growing, so a lot of money wasted. But something remains unchanged. Everybody agrees that it's important to invest in data. It's still data is still the source of innovation and advancement in a lot of industries, including traditional industries. So companies are going to keep doing that, but they're going to be much more cautious about how they invest their money going forward. Also because of the current market conditions and some turbulences and uncertainties that are around us. So it's super important and crucial to keep the costs under control and also to show positive ROI of data platforms. All that without limiting innovation. So it's a tricky subject. Let's look at some of the main reasons or areas where cloud overspend appears, and this is a result of a survey done by HashiCorp. For those that don't know this company, they are creators of Terraform, and you can see some categories here ranging from idle, underused resources. That's a no-brainer. Think your SageMaker instance running idly with a big GPU reserved and no one utilizing it. Over-provisioned resources, your super large Spark cluster reserved for processing a few megabytes of data. Lack of necessary skills, things like manual containerization, and only 6% of the companies say that they don't have, they don't see any avoidable cloud spend. So in the long run, sponsors of the platforms will be nervous if those data platforms don't show positive ROI and real business impact, and all they see are long and large cloud bills that they have to pay for. And if they keep seeing that, that may mean that there will be a lot of disturbance within the data platforms, and in some circumstances, even shutting down some initiatives. So again, very important topic and something to consider when you're running your data platforms. But before we talk more about how you actually go about controlling your costs on your data platforms, let's quickly have a look at what actually a data platform is. And it's not very easy to answer this because this is a wide topic and different companies use their data platforms for various things. But one of the ways to think about data platforms would be that they are the tools that enable data-driven use cases by providing access to usable data and right tools to build analytical use cases on top of them. So this is one of the very simplistic views of a data platform with your data sources, your ingestion pipelines, your data lake, your data warehouse, lake house, whatever term you want to use, your model data with data domains, and various tools that allow you to do all sorts of analysis, like reporting, BI, data science, machine learning, and at the end of that, actual use cases that bring value to the platform. And no platform will be complete without this layer, which is governance, and it's all about security, user access, compliance, and cost control, which is the topic of our discussion. So governance, really important thing when it comes to data platforms. But the reality is often that the data platforms that we work with on day-to-day basis, as they grow, they get more complex, so they don't look as nice as the picture as I've been showing before. Often in big enterprises, data platforms evolved into those complex architectures with maybe like in this example, a dual technology data platform with one leg being a Palantir Foundry estate with some pipelines, some data lakes, reporting and use cases running there. Other side on AWS with SageMaker, Glue pipelines, the AWS specific technology, and those things, those platforms work hand in hand and complement each other. But on top of that, maybe you have a Snowflake database and some data in there, and you have Tableau and Power BI connected to it. So it can really get complex. And that means that governance on such a complex platform is even more complex. And when it comes to cost, reasoning about like where the cost is actually coming from, especially if the use case spans the different technologies, it's not easy. And sometimes you require some specialized tools and good techniques in order to be able to really understand the cost dynamics on your platform. So how do you keep your data platform costs under control? And let's start with the high-level picture. We believe that controlling and reducing the cost of cloud data platform is a continuous process with four main interconnected areas. There is planning, there is monitoring and analysis of the cost data, there is actually optimization, and there is governance and culture and people. And we also think that the whole process is not only about technology, it's also very much about actually people and the culture in the organization. So that circle that you have just seen may for some of you be quite similar to the circle of a movement called FinOps, which has been on the rise in the last couple of months. And this is actually a movement and an operational framework and actually culture shift that brings technology, finance, and businesses together to drive financial accountability and actually accelerate the business. So the areas in FinOps, in a classical FinOps lifecycle, are very close to the approach that we are proposing, and those two approaches kind of complement each other, and they're quite similar. So I also encourage the audience here to to also read about FinOps. It's definitely worth knowing about. So let's start with planning. Planning is all about designing your data platform with cost in mind. It's about building an ecosystem such that the cost model of various parts of the platform is easily understandable, so that users that onboard use cases and do all sorts of analytics on your platform, they can actually quite easily reason about the costs that they may generate or are generating as they're going through their analysis. But it's also about keeping your business goals in mind. So the cost planning and the cost cannot be the only driver for your platform. If it's only about reducing cost, then you might as well just not build a data platform, and then you won't have any spend. But it's also about improving your business and supporting your business goals. So you cannot just look at the costs without having business goals in mind, because some use cases may be bringing a lot of value to your business, but they can also be expensive, but it's reasonable and justified. So you need to have those two dynamics in mind. And it's also about making your consumers responsible and accountable for the spend. And something that we advise as a company, something that you can keep a track of in your data platform, is your annual cloud spend versus your actual spend versus your forecasts. And you can measure that as a KPI that will allow you on the annual granularity, but also on the monthly granularity, see how your actual cloud spend cost differs from your forecast. And then if those numbers are close, you're good. If they're not close, then you need to kind of adjust how you operate. One other interesting area and topic to consider in the subject of planning is that hybrid data platforms are often consist of different tools that have very different cost plans. The way you measure your cost is different. You have different units. So, for example, I'm bringing up Snowflake pricing on the screen here. In Snowflake, you have a lot of tiers. You pay for usage, you pay for storage, and you also have certain credits that you use. And it's not very easy to reason about those credits and how your workloads are going to are actually going to be reflected on your bills. Also, tools like Databricks, they also have their Databricks units, a lot of tiers. If you actually want to compare tools and be comparing apples to apples, it's not super easy because a lot of data is kind of obfuscated and hidden behind those tiers and units. And what we as Unit8 found in practice is that sometimes you just need to run certain experiments on different tools in order to be able to see what the real cost of running certain workload is on various tools. So this is an important thing to keep in mind. And as you enter, as you onboard some of those tools, there are also tools available on the market, like Cloud Zero Harness, that you can plug into your system, and they will allow you to collect metrics from various cloud providers and tools like Snowflake and provide some sort of reporting layer. But you can also, if your organization is large enough and is justified, you can build those tools on your own and really have very, very detailed and fine-tuned insights into what's happening on your platform in terms of costs. And I'll be talking about one use case like this in a few minutes. Okay, now we're moving into monitoring and analysis. And this is all about collecting data and understanding what's happening on your platform. And I'll talk about three main areas here. First is the usage and cost tracking. So it's all about knowing how big your cloud bill is going to be. So you need to enable the cost and resource tracking. You want to be as granular as possible about this. So you can consider, using tagging, different hierarchies, so that you can attribute your cost, and always make a KPI out of your cost and measure this on different granularity levels. Then there is cost allocation. So you actually need to be able to know where most of the cost is generated, and also need to be able to measure that cost also in environments where your use case can span a lot of technologies. And then it's reporting and alerting. So it's all about setting those cost policies, limits on use cases, on organizations, sub-organizations, and also giving your end users access to all that information and alerting them about how costs are evolving on your platform. And again, something that we advise and we think it's a good idea is another KPI where you can track percentage of cloud spend that you can allocate to responsible business owners. So what that means is that you don't want actually a situation where you can only attribute the cost of your cloud data platform to, for example, IT department. You want to be able to say that this particular use case that is spanning different technologies has generated this cost, and that contributes X to the overall cost of the platform. And then if this number is is close to 100%, that means that your cost is like nicely distributed to actual business owners and use cases, and it's no longer just the IT department. It's also the business owners and business divisions that know how much they're paying for the cloud, but they also would know how much they're benefiting because of the use cases that are running on the platform. So something that you want to keep as high as possible. Another thing in the monitoring and analysis area is that complex hybrid platforms are also like very, very rich sources of data, especially those more complex platforms will provide a lot of data and a lot of details that you can use to your advantage to find actionable insights and actually reason about how the costs of your data platforms are evolving. So to give you a couple of examples, Snowflake, for example, has various usage and accounting interfaces, but also offers very nice series of tables with metadata that you can query directly to, for example, list like most expensive queries that have been run in the last month on the platform. And then you can do some analysis on that data if your platform is big enough and your Snowflake bills are large, and find some interesting patterns and maybe drive some cost reduction based on that data. Likewise, Databricks, they have an API. You can scrape jobs from there and for example look at schedules. This is something that we often do in Unit8. You can just by scraping schedules of your jobs, you can find schedules that run some pipelines every minute, where in fact the business only needs to see the data refreshed every day or every week. So just changing schedules on various jobs can actually save you a lot of money. Likewise, S3, like you can, for example, look at who's accessing your data, and maybe you find out that your biggest Parquet file that is so expensive to produce, no one is accessing it, and you can just disable your pipeline. So this is just to make us realize that there's a lot of metadata in our systems, and you can actually tap into this data and extract a lot of actionable cost-reducing insights. Another interesting trend and something that we see a lot is the rise and growth of low-code and tools and self-service tools and various advancements in technology of data platforms that make those tools really easy and appealing for users to use. So this is great, right? You have a lot of users on your data platform, and those low code or no code tools allow non-technical users to build dashboards. You can run your BigQuery queries going through like terabytes of data, and you will have responses in a matter of seconds because this tool is just so great and so scalable. You have AutoML that lets you train models without writing any code. So all of that is great. It really democratizes a lot of data analysis, but it also introduces a lot of cost. So someone that doesn't know how to write data pipelines, they have some generator that helps them do this. They can end up writing very unoptimized pipeline, which uses a lot of resources. Or like users running Snowflake queries, they won't realize that terabytes is actually a lot of data, and maybe it's actually quite expensive to run queries like this. So you need to be aware of this as someone who runs the platform and maintain the balance. And you also need to educate your users and help them understand that they're benefiting from all the goodies of the technology, but it's not it doesn't come for free. And here you also need to double down on monitoring and alerting. So if you need to be on top of the costs that more users are generating on your platform. Okay, so now let's quickly look at how you can actually optimize some of your workloads. So we said that robust monitoring and analysis allows you, to find insights that can help you optimize your data platform. And all of us will at some point be here and we'll need to optimize our data platforms. It's kind of good if you're not here because you just got a very, very large bill, and you're in a panic mode, and you just need to optimize something. It's much better if you are here because you were aware of how your costs are evolving. You had forecasts, you're monitoring, and you know that you're not trending in the right direction, and you just need to look at how your data platform can be optimized. And let's just look at a couple of techniques that one can apply to optimize the cost. And this is a really broad topic. It depends on what sort of tools you're running on your platform, what's the architecture, what workloads you have, what sort of users. So there is so many different things that you can do to optimize the platform. This is just some sort of view that allows you to put like the savings and the effort on the scale, so you can see like what's quick and easy, like removing idle resources and shutting things down. That's a low effort, and it can save money. But really large savings often come from like those high effort things like replatforming or re-architecting. So something to consume offline. And what I want to share with you is one case study of something that we've been doing in Unit8, and that's in the area of performance and cost optimization of a cloud-based data platform. So we've been working with a couple of our clients, and I'm going on slightly similar projects, but I'm going to share the story of one of them, a client that had a really big user base, and the cloud data platform that they had is really successful, with more than 3,000 active users and like thousands of use cases, and all that leads to cost growth. And we partner with that client, and together with them, we built a solution that first of all was reading metrics, logs, collecting data from different parts of the platform, analyzing workloads, and identifying performance bottlenecks with actionable insights. And then on top of that, we're providing optimization manuals and educating users to write better Spark jobs, because Spark was the processing engine in this case, up to like conducting full code reviews. But I think the most interesting part is actual something I mentioned earlier. You can read insights from your platform, and by analyzing the data, you can often find like low-hanging fruit, things that you can disable on the spot, and you're reducing your cost. And with this particular example, like after the first month of users, so very quickly after onboarding the tool, a lot of things were removed, and cost went down by 5%. And this is still going on. The tool is running. And some of the things that we've done there was removing pipelines for the use cases that no one was using. A very simple thing, but there were those pipelines producing data that no one needs. I mentioned job frequency, so this is one of the things that we did here. Like some of the data sets didn't have to be built as often. Things like removing non-production schedules, all that leads to cost reduction, and you can actually automatically derive insights like this. So a quick glance on the architecture of this solution. I won't go into details, but the idea was, again, like you collect data about your bill, jobs, schedules, you add some specific client-specific domain data like statuses of use cases, list of users, and you combine that in one data set, and then you run an analysis on top of it, and you can build dashboard, you can alert, you can build reports, and you can provide actionable insights. And this is a quick glance on the UI of one of the solutions that we are building, which just shows the breakdown of one of the actionable insights, which was about, hey, you have all those data pipelines that are running for the decommissioned use cases, and this is how much they're costing you. Maybe you should go and remove those pipelines. And we've, as I said, we've actually run a couple of use cases like this, and partner like us can help their clients in optimizing cost consumption and resource utilization. And we are also quite flexible when it comes to the model that we operate in, and also going into a pay-per-results model where we only charge for the savings that we've produced. Okay, and the last area I want to talk about is governance. So this is all the culture and people, but also technology things that you can do to help manage the cost. And this is all about making your consumers responsible, but giving them the right tools that they can use to measure and monitor their costs, incentivizing the right behaviors with policies and various incentives to drive the costs down, having a governance board, and overall encouraging collaboration and, for example, exchange of best practices about how to best design your SAP data pipeline with resource consumption in mind, and, for example, how to do incremental load of certain things from SAP as one example. And something that is quite interesting, there is also a lot of tools that you can give your teams and your users to help them be more cost aware. Like, for example, there is this infra cost extension to Terraform that you can run as part of your CI/CD pipeline, and it will actually tell you how it will give you an estimate of the cost of the infra that you're designing. But also things like BigQuery, when you run a query, they will try to estimate how much data you're going to process. So you can teach users about looking at this. A fun fact is that something that we've seen is that some really heavy big users of BigQuery with a lot of with big bills on BigQuery, and the tool is great, by the way. They went as far as creating plugins to web browser that will in-fly for the users change this number into actual dollar value, so it's even more apparent for the users and clear what is the cost of running the queries, big analytical queries on vast data sets. So this is just one example of the thing that you can do to help you drive the cost down. Okay, and then that was the governance, and now a very quick summary, and we'll go to a QA session. So we've said that cloud optimization spend is about, first of all, planning, monitoring and analysis, actual optimization, and very much also about governance, culture, and education of your users. And that's it. Thank you very much. I hope it wasn't too long. I tried to cover a couple of areas during this talk, And Billy, if you're there,
Yes.
we can go to questions.
Thank you, Tomek. So you can ask a question and we'll answer to them right now after, 2-second break. Yes, thank you, Tomek. It was a lot of useful tips. I hope you guys enjoy as well. We have a few questions indeed. First, at the beginning, I think of your presentation, you had some slide, and on some of them, you were mentioning data domains. This is a question from Benji. Can you explain what are those?
Data domains. I guess this was in the very high level overview of a data platform.
Yeah.
So data domains was basically highlighting the area of your data platform where you have like well modeled and curated data divided into different domains. So like say you have a manufacturing you're a manufacturing business, and maybe you have some sales related data, some production supply chain related data. So these are the data domains that I was talking about. And some of the great data platforms that we've worked with really have this well-defined data domain layer with a well-modeled data that not only technical but also business users can take advantage of quite easily. So that's what I meant with this.
Thanks. I hope it answers your question, Benji. We have another question from Camille. You mentioned building custom tools to extract actionable cost, reducing insight. Would you recommend buying a tool or building one in-house?
I think that depends on the size of your operation. I mentioned one use case where we were building this together with the client, and it was a custom solution. So in their case, first of all, very big operation with like hundreds or thousands of users, and quite specific stack where you couldn't just take a product off the shelf that would provide you all those actionable insights. So there, because of the size, because of the value of potential savings and actual technology stack, it made sense to build a tool in-house. But in smaller deployments, more homogeneous with maybe on just GCP stack with 2 or 3 basic tools, probably using what GCP has to offer, or like some of the off-the-shelf tools would make sense. So I would say if your stack is very complex and you have a large deployment, then it makes sense to build something like that on your own.
I hope it answers the question. I think, it depends on your situation. And we have another question from Grzegorz. What do you think about deploying multi-cloud strategy as a way to reduce cost?
That's an interesting question. I would say, first of all, like maintaining a multi-cloud strategy can be expensive on its own, and not necessarily because of the cost of workloads, but also because of the cost of designing your data platform in a way such you can move things around between various providers. That itself introduces a lot of cost, and I don't think it's always warranted. Having said that, I've seen or we've seen examples where, for example, moving data from BigQuery to AWS meant big savings just because the way the data is stored in BigQuery versus AWS was more favorable in that particular context, and that drove the cost down quite significantly. So my answer would be, I will be cautious about this and really be careful if you think about multi-cloud as a way to reduce cost. But in certain cases, it can be warranted. But you need to be careful, and you need to be able to measure your cost throughout like a hybrid environment, which is inherently more complex.
Thank you, Tomek, for this answer. If any of you have more questions, feel free. That's the moment. I'll give you a few more seconds. But if also you're shy or you don't know what to ask right now, you can also write to us or comment, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Anyway, that was a really good session. I hope you enjoy as well. We have all the past episodes on our YouTube channel, but also on our website, visit unit8.com. We have our resource library, article, past webinars, white papers. So feel free to visit that. We have another question actually from Benji, and that might be the last one. Which drive more cost, OLTP or OLAP?
So you mean I guess the question is like, is the online transaction processing more costly than like data analysis? On the data that is usually produced from transactional systems. Let me think about this one. I mean, probably when it comes to it's probably hard to answer this question, but my intuition would be that if your data from OLTP systems is then fed into data analytics platforms and then analyzed over and over again, just the cost of data analysis is probably going to be bigger on the OLAP side. But in terms of like overall cost, not just on data analysis side, but cost of just like running solutions, it's really hard for me to say, right? It would probably depend on exact system and the way you query and analyze the data. So not very precise answer, but yeah, I guess it depends.
I hope that give you some hint of answer, Benji. That's all for us today. I think it's time to wrap the session. As I mentioned, you can see all resources on our YouTube channel, but also on our website, unit8.com. You can follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube to be updated about next session, but also where we're sharing our case studies and tips on data and AI. Any last word on your side, Tomek?
It was a pleasure. This is a topic dear to my heart, so I always enjoy talking about it. And yeah, I encourage you if you have some questions later on, feel free to reach to me or Unit8 in general.
Well said.
We're happy to help.
Well said. So with that, we wish you a great evening. This is the last webinar of the year. It was Unit8 Talk number 25. See you soon. Bye-bye, everyone.
See you soon. Thank you very much.